Hi everyone, my name is Onno Coleman with Dynamic Leader Development, and today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is developing homegrown leaders. I want to share the 6 things that we most often work on together in our coaching, and this is for a client who has just probably taken a step up in altitude inside the company, and they want to get more comfortable in that certain role. They want to learn some new tools and mindsets, maybe fill in some of the gaps that their homegrown leadership didn't get from some kind of formal leadership program. So it's either clients who have just taken that step up, or it's clients who are wanting to take that step up and they're wanting to do a little bit of prep to get ready for that and to demonstrate that they are ready for that next altitude. And what I hear from these clients is that it often feels a bit like this. They're reaching for some kind of tool that they need at their new altitude, and they don't have it. It's not in their tool belt yet, certainly not there and calibrated and ready for whatever circumstance. And so, what do they do often? They will resort to what they know, and they will get on the treadmill and they will run, right? You got promoted because you had a good work ethic, because you had good instincts, because you had good technical knowledge, and you were there early. Maybe you're a good engineer, you got promoted to manager of engineer, then a director of engineering, and then VP, and then maybe there's an acquisition, and now suddenly you're the CTO. It's not going to work to just keep doing more and more of what you know. Where that's going to lead is a place called burnout, where you're this cute little octopus on the side of the coffee cup, or maybe you are the coffee cup. And under the intensity and under the pressure and under the volume of things that are coming your way, it's overwhelming. And you can't just keep doing the same thing, but just more of it. So, what we often do in our coaching situations, there are 2 ways out of this. One is to grow the size of the coffee cup so that it can hold more. This is what I think of as scaling. The second is to maybe do something to mitigate the incoming flow and have some systems and ways to deal with that, the volume of communications and of stakeholder relationships and of to-do lists and the pressure. So let me share the 6 things that we often end up working on so that you can avoid getting overly heated like that. Okay, number one. Firstly, we look at what does the business need from you? At this new altitude, in this new role, what's needed? You're probably an expert in your function at this point, but do you know enough about sales and marketing and operations and finance and manufacturing? Because those are the peers that you now need to interface with in a new way. And do you also lead in a way that all of those people now, maybe dozens, maybe hundreds, reporting to you, that they get what they need? And when you're reporting up the chain to the president or the CEO or the board, are they getting what they need from you as well? So, firstly, we look at the lay of the land in terms of the external system. Secondly, now we need to look, equally importantly, at your internal system. So, if we use the iceberg metaphor, the top above the waterline, these are the behaviors that you do, the words you choose, the actions you take. Everybody sees these. But what drives those behaviors? What drives certain behaviors like wanting to get your hands dirty and wanting to get in the weeds and wanting to do the work and not be an empty suit? We need to look at the underlying worldview that you've developed, the beliefs you have, the assumptions you have, the goals you have, the needs you have, the paradigms that you're operating within that preference certain behaviors that might not be that helpful anymore over others, which would be more helpful. So it might be in terms of the work, getting your hands dirty, or it might be in terms of relationships. Are you aware of the stakeholders that you need to now connect with? And when you do connect with them, are you able to do that in an effective way? Some of my clients are a little more on the aggressive, abrasive end, and so that doesn't work too well for the stakeholders. Others are more on the passive end, and so that also doesn't work. And yet others are so technical, maybe they were doctors or physicians or engineers or scientists, they just don't really do relationships. That's not really their thing. So they haven't developed the natural skills and abilities to do that. And so there are ways that we can work with them and make that more natural. So there's the work that needs to be addressed, there are the relationships, there's your place in the system, there's also the vision. Are you good at creating a compelling vision? Are you good at communicating a compelling vision? And do you do it consistently? Because one of the things at the higher level is you need to repeat and repeat and repeat yourself so that everybody gets aligned and is all rowing in the same direction. Vision is also a longer term horizon than you might be used to. And so there's a zooming out and a zooming up that you're now going to need to do at this new altitude. And then finally, there's the thing that a lot of people talk about, which is executive presence. So, do you have the gravitas? Do you have the strength of belief and of conviction? At the executive level in particular, the comments are flying thick and fast. And so, are you able to get in there and insert your part of the conversation and speak for you and your needs and speak for your department and what it needs? Are you able to make those bigger, bolder asks that are now needed at your altitude? So I'd file all of these under the sort of presence bucket that we might work on as well. So ideally, these are the things that you start to master. And in the end, these will be fluent and interchangeable, and you have the right tool in your tool belt when the moment calls for it. What is your starting point, though? That's going to determine the type of work that we do together. So let's talk briefly about starting points. There are two assessments that I'll always do up front. There's the leadership circle, which can be done as a self-assessment, or a 360, which helps to shape and diagnose where is your leadership right now, where are your strengths, and what should you be working on. And then there's also a verbal 360, where I'll want to talk and interview some of the key stakeholders in your orbit to understand what's the context that you're operating within and what are some of the pressures on you. I'll then want to observe you in action, see how you do in these meetings. How do you lead? How do you speak up? How do you declare the vision? How do you interact with your people? Are you coach-like or are you more dictatorial? We'll get all of that from some observation. And then finally, if the situation calls for it, we might do some kind of team assessment for maybe one of the cross-functional teams that you're on or one of the teams that you lead. Because if you think about leadership in a simplified way, credit to LIW for this, there are 3 C's that a leader needs to create: clarity, climate, and competence. And so we can assess and get a measurable benchmark, something that's nice and concrete, and that we can iterate on month after month after month to see how well your team is performing. So if all that sounds good and you're one of those leaders who just took a big step up and you want to solidify and fortify your ability to handle everything coming at you, then feel free to reach out. We can talk about partnering. If you're one of those leaders that wants to step up and wants to do a little bit of that spade work in ahead of time so that you can demonstrate that you're ready, start already talking and thinking at this next altitude. I think that's one of the best ways to get promoted. Or if you're perhaps in HR and you're looking at a cohort of leaders and managers who you'd very much like to retain, you'd like to engage them further and motivate them and develop them so they're more effective, we can talk about a solution that scales for you as well. So thanks for watching. I hope that's been helpful to you today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.